Wisconsin is currently one of 7 swing states that could decide the 2024 U.S. presidential election. The Midwestern state is known for its dairy farms, cheese-making, and beer-drinking culture, as well as its razor-thin election margins. The last 2 elections were decided by less than 1 percentage point. Professor Barry Burden unpacks this crucial swing state.
There's something magical in Wisconsin that the demographics of the groups that favor the 2 parties are just sort of perfectly offset. And when one party makes a gain with a group that's growing, maybe urban voters in Madison helping Democrats, it seems as though Republicans also have a gain that's equivalent with whether it's rural voters or suburban voters.
But despite historically close elections, Democratic candidates had long been victorious in Wisconsin. That is, until 2016.
Yeah, I would say 2016 was a real shock to both Republicans and Democrats. It was a surprise to see a Republican candidate win the state after so many election cycles going back to the mid-1980s, since a Republican had last won the state in 1984. So I think that's alerted both parties that there's something afoot in the state. For Trump, it was rural and suburban voters who really came to his side. And I think a lack of investment by the Democratic campaign under Hillary Clinton. She famously did not visit the state.
President Joe Biden flipped Wisconsin back to blue in 2020, but Democratic nominee Kamala Harris is not taking anything for granted. She launched her campaign in Milwaukee.
The path to the White House goes through Wisconsin.
Republicans also hosted their convention in Wisconsin.
We will make Wisconsin great again.
Like the rest of the country, Wisconsin voters' top concern is the economy, but there's another issue that could be critical.
Abortion has become a top issue in the state, maybe more so than in the rest of the country. When the Supreme Court decision was handed down that did away with Roe v. Wade, it mattered more in Wisconsin than other states, because abortion had been legal and had been provided across the state before that time. But the week the decision was handed down, those abortion providers stopped. And the abortion issue has been pulling some women, especially higher education women, away from the Republican Party. I do think the African American vote is an important one to watch. African Americans only make up about 6% of the state. They vote at lower rates than whites, but they're very Democratic, of course, though less so in recent years. As has been the pattern nationally, black voters have been migrating just a little bit in the Republican direction, especially younger black voters. So Democrats are going to make a real effort to try to re-energize African American voters and get them back on their side, and I think the Kamala Harris ticket with her at the head of it will get them some of that. But the Trump campaign will also make, I think, a serious effort to win over black voters in the state. So that's a small block, but maybe a pivotal one. In a very close election, as we expect in Wisconsin, even a small vote that goes for an independent candidate or a minor party candidate could matter. And there is a history of those candidates doing well in Wisconsin. Jill Stein, who was the Green Party candidate this year, was also the Green Party candidate in 2016 and won about 100,000 votes, although Hillary Clinton only lost to Donald Trump by about 20,000 votes. So there's at least some evidence that a candidate sometimes holds enough votes in their pocket that they could have made the difference. I think Kamala Harris's selection of a running mate matters more for Wisconsin than in other states. Tim Walz is from Minnesota, which is the neighboring state. A lot of people in Wisconsin will be familiar with him. He also can sort of talk a language and connect with the culture of the upper Midwest, things like hunting and fishing and lifestyles and other things that I think allow him to relate, especially in small towns in Wisconsin, in a way that maybe some of the other running mates she was thinking about wouldn't have.
Look, I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. And I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it.
According to recent polls, Wisconsin's election is shaping up to be another nail-biter. But one thing we can predict? High voter turnout. The state typically ranks in the top 5 nationally for voter participation.